Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions with my co-host Stacie, here to talk about the original Quantum Leap, Season 3, Episode 17, Glitter Rock. The episode's description reads as follows. Sam becomes a member of a rock band who is stabbed to death after a concert by one of a long list of suspects. The episode was written by Chris Rapunzel. He actually directed the previous episode. He's more in his wheelhouse in this one, writing this particular episode. The episode was directed by Andy Cadiff, and this is his second effort on the series. His first was the second season episode, So Help Me God. He's got one more directorial stint on this series, and that will be the very next episode, A Hunting We Will Go. His Internet Movie Database has a lot of comedies on it, which includes 81 episodes of the Michael Fox-led series Spin City. The episode takes place on April 12th, 1974, and originally aired on April 10th, 1991. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a Sport Freak podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please feel free to follow and check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered, both Quantum Leap related and otherwise. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. Alright, shout-outs this week. One for Kayleen, your sister, who recently gave birth to Theodora.
Yes, I have a beautiful baby niece. She's actually, today's her 1 week birthday.
Oh,
later this evening.
Happy 1 week birthday.
Yeah, she's had a very busy life so far. It's been kind of crazy around here for us. We've been all over the place.
And that's at least responsible for delaying one of the videos that we were supposed to do. Every other thing has been basically on schedule, but we were going to do a firm reaction video that didn't end up happening because of all the craziness that was going on.
Yeah.
Other shout-outs includes Alpa. He had the same feelings I did as a kid. He didn't really like the episode. His stance was more on religious grounds. He was a highly religious person raised in the Catholic religion. That wasn't my issue. I'm not really religious in any kind of way. But nowadays he watches the episode and he thinks it's hilarious. He also suggested that Nolan, the sheriff in that episode, and Jabir might have a friends with benefits situation, though like me, he's completely clueless as to what those benefits could possibly be. I think he was just making that comment to play off my joke from last week. But he also mentioned it was very weird that that particular character showed up so late in that episode. And yeah, I think he should have been included earlier in some capacity.
Yeah.
But yeah, as it stands, that's not what ended up happening. Also, Mark Davidson found Sam's hosts to be particularly unsympathetic, and I agree, he seems like a dirtbag. I mean, he runs a whorehouse, so how good of a guy can he be? You know, no judgments or anything like that, but, you know, he wasn't really presented to be that great of a guy.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, this episode, we have a couple announcements. This is probably the last original series episode that we're going to take a look at for a while. Because we have the new series coming back and we have all sorts of other things going on under the dome from reaction videos. But we do have 2 more episodes of trivia, one which should drop tomorrow. That's the season 4 one. And then we have season 5 happening in 2 weeks after that. So, yep, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
Okay, so Glitter Rock. I mean, this was never like one of my favorites, and that's simply because I don't like the 70s. I don't listen to rock music. You know, I was never a fan of Kiss, which is obviously, you know, the inspiration here behind this type of band. And, I mean, just for those reasons, I never favored this episode. But watching it, I mean, it's a strong story. I like the story. I like the way it's played out. It's not one of those, you know, typical, action ones that I've been complaining about, you know, that I get them all confused. I mean, we have a good story here. Just, you know, the content's not necessarily my favorite cup of tea. But one thing I have to, you know, to comment on rewatching this now is, and we talked about this when we were covering season 1 of the new show, is just how closely fellow travelers followed mirroring this episode.
Right, it's kind of funny that now we're talking about...
in reverse.
Yes, in exactly reverse of what we did when we were discussing that episode. Yeah, it's very, very similar.
Yeah, and we can touch on some of those points, I think, as we go, or at the end. But yeah, just watching it again now, this is my first time watching this episode after having watched that episode of season 1 of the revival. And it's like, wow, that episode, fellow travelers, just I can see it now as such a beautiful homage to Glitter Rock. And I remember when it happened, I was like, it's too similar. Like, it's too coincident. Like, it feels like it's just copying it. But now it's going the other way. I'm like, yeah, it feels really good. It feels good.
It's interesting that your point of view changed watching this episode again.
Yeah.
After seeing that episode. So, yeah. I mean, our opinions change as we take a look at things again. This is also the origin story for our sister podcast, brother podcast, whatever podcast, Bates Wide Wheel. So that's also an interesting point for this episode. All right, so I guess we might as well just get straight into this thing.
All right.
Sam leaps into the middle of a concert. He's playing in the concert. It looks like a Kiss-like band, and this is Tropic Thunder. No, that's actually the name of a movie. Rolling Thunder.
Nope,
Thunder still getting
King.
it wrong. Thunder King?
King Thunder.
King Thunder, okay.
Wow.
What,
We're off to a great start.
Yes, the 10th time is a charm on that one. But yeah, there's screaming fans. The band is wondering what the heck he's doing because he's just kind of standing there. And he says, "Oh boy," into the mic, and then we go into the credits.
Yeah, and also during that cold open, another bandmate who we'll learn is Flash, was asking Sam, "Are you going to do it or not?"
Right.
And of course, Sam has no idea what he's being asked to do. We'll learn later that Flash is trying to get Sam's host to play his songs.
Yes.
And of course, that's not going to happen with Sam there. He doesn't want to play any songs, let alone this guy's new song.
Yep. So we come back to the concert. There's pyrotechnics, and the concert is then over. We get a standing ovation, and we get a first look at Philip. Okay, so this little bit here. So he's walking into the crowd, and we have Philip, who we don't know yet. He's just a random person that's there.
There's some kid.
Yeah,
and this is happening as the band's being kind of pushed into their dressing room. So they're going from their stage to the dressing room.
And we have this overly dramatic slow motion.
It's slow motion, and there's a specific music that plays, and that happens like every time we see Philip during this episode.
It gets really freaking silly. It's really silly. And particularly this first time, because Philip isn't even doing anything menacing. He's just a face in the crowd. And I don't even know why Sam notices him.
And that's the point, is Sam notices him. And, this is my main criticism of this episode. And, I get into that in my notes, later once we actually accuse him. It's like, why? Why are you so suspicious of this one random person that you saw at the concert?
Yeah, the more this episode goes along, the more silly it becomes that we're even suspecting this guy. Because nothing about this guy is sinister.
Right. And it's not even the fact that they suspect him, but he's their number one suspect for a while.
Right, to the point where, this episode really wants you to think that Philip is the guy.
Right. They're pointing us in that direction.
Every single time he appears on screen, it's the dramatic percussion music and the slow motion. It's just really silly. It kind of stacks the deck against his character, for sure. This guy is played by Christian Hoff, which you would know if you watch season 3.
If you watch season 3 trivia, because my husband Adam seemed to think that's something we were supposed to know. We didn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christian Hoff.
Right? He has 55 acting credits. He seemed to make a career off of one-off guest appearances in television shows. He hasn't done anything since 2014, so I'm not sure why Adam thought that we should know this guy, but, whatever.
Yeah, my husband tends to pick really random stuff off of, IMDb and think that that's a good trivia question.
If you haven't watched Season 3 trivia, it's available, it's up, go check it out.
As well as Seasons 1 and 2. And Season 4, like Dave said, will be available tomorrow.
Right.
Looking forward to that.
That should be fun. The other members of the band, Flash, he's played by John Grease. He has 146 acting credits for him and a few producer credits. There's also Nick, and I'm not even sure who are the other guys even named.
Okay, so I'll back up. Flash, you said, is played by John. How did you pronounce that?
John Grease.
Grease.
Yeah, that's the best I could get out of that.
I would have guessed Grise or I don't know. I wanted to point out he's also in another episode of Quantum Leap. He's in Right Hand of God.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what he plays in that, but he's in there somewhere, according to IMDb. He also has a recurring appearance on Lost.
Oh.
He plays Roger Linus, which is Ben Linus's father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't have picked that one up.
Yeah.
But I found that interesting. And once I read that, I was really looking at him like, that's an interesting interesting connection there. And then you mentioned Nick. Nick's played by Michael Cerveris.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the show Fame, which we talked about a couple episodes ago. With, oh my goodness, what's her name? That was in Private Dancer.
Oh, Private Dancer. Debbie Allen?
Yes, Debbie Allen was in Fame.
All right.
Okay, because we were talking about that then. Thank you. So Michael Cerveris is in that. He also played September in the show Fringe, one of the main observers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have recognized him.
No, I didn't recognize him either. And it took me a while, so I picked that out of IMDb, and I'm like, who's Nick? I'm watching the show, like, which one of these guys is Nick? Because I don't recognize him. I got it, like, near the end.
Yeah. Near the end is when they finally bring up his name.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I don't even recognize his name.
Yeah, there was, like, that shorter guy. Yeah. He was shorter and just smaller. He was usually wearing red. I didn't pick up his name. Because there are a lot of characters in IMDb, and I couldn't pick out necessarily which ones were the band members,
right.
Other than those three. And of course, Sam has leaped into Tonic, and I didn't write down the actor who played that mirror image, but I don't think he had anything significant to his name.
Okay, so meanwhile, the manager, Dwayne, clears people off and yells at Sam about trying to take off his makeup, which he isn't supposed to do before getting back to the hotel, because they want to keep the mystique of the band.
Right. Apparently, they don't have a lot of appearances without makeup on. And
he seems like an arrogant prick from the start.
Yeah.
Saying the band would be nothing without him. Dwayne is played by Peter Noon. He has 26 credits for him, including 4 on the soap opera As the World Turns. Do you have anything else of note for him?
Of course, Peter Noon, most known as the lead singer of Herman's Hermits.
Oh, let's see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's a rock legend himself.
Oh, well, what do you know? That makes sense.
Yeah, well, I thought it would have been more fitting to have him play in the band.
Right.
Maybe it was kind of a meta commentary on him being better than these guys.
Perhaps. All right, so the band ends up exiting the stadium into a wild crowd. We have more slow motion, more suspenseful music when we see Philip. Philip ends up getting into it with the... Well, no, actually, Philip doesn't end up doing that. That would be Dwayne, who ends up lecturing Flash on his spending habits, which is a very interesting thing that he's doing, given the fact that it's kind of the pot calling kettle black.
Well, he's trying. So what Dwayne is doing, in hindsight, knowing what's going on with Dwayne, is he's trying to convince these guys, you're not as rich as you think. Here's where your money's going. You're blowing it on this, that, and the other thing. Like, do you realize how expensive overhead is?
Right.
So he's trying to explain away why they don't have the money that they should have.
At the hotel, Sam is mugged by a bunch of girls, which is when Al makes his appearance at the 8-minute and 20-second mark. Sam resists their advances and eventually manages to get them out, which is kind of interesting because it's 3 against 1, much to Al's aggravation. He's disappointed that there won't be a Sam sandwich. He specifically says that. Sam thinks that this is degrading for them, and this is worse than when he was a Chip and Dale's dancer, which is kind of some nice little continuity that this show doesn't usually do all that often. Al tells him he's part of a rock band, King Thunder, and his name is Tonic.
His real name being Jeffrey Mole, and he got the nickname Tonic based on vodka tonic because he used to have a pretty bad drinking problem.
Al is doing his job for once, knows that Sam is there to prevent him from getting stabbed, but they don't know who did it.
Right. They actually know why you're here.
Yes.
We just have no idea how that happens. So the killer was never caught. And he knows it's going to happen 2 nights from now. Tonic is stabbed as he's leaving the concert, getting into the limo. And that would be their last appearance at this same venue. So it's the place where Sam is tonight. He's going to be there again tomorrow. And then it's the 3rd concert in the series that the murder happens.
Sam thinks it might be the kid he keeps seeing in slow motion.
Yeah, he tells Al about this kid, Philip. I mean, we don't know his name yet, but it's Philip. And they don't only jump. He not only thinks this kid's the killer, but he says, "Oh, the reason he killed him is because he's schizophrenic."
Yeah, that was really weird.
Like,
he comes.
What are you talking about?
He just comes up with this random diagnosis of this person he doesn't know.
Yeah, he's seen him twice now.
Yeah. In
half-a-second blips, they've had 0 interactions. Al has no idea who this kid is because
it's not even.
Why would he?
Right, it's not even in Ziggy's probability matrix is what he specifically says. But yeah, so he comes to this conclusion that this random person he keeps seeing that I don't even know why he notices in the first place.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people there.
Is not only the killer, but has process schizophrenia. And I guess what that is that you don't have blanks in your personality, so you end up filling it in with like movies and such. Yes.
Yeah, and they came to the conclusion that he's obsessed with tonic. I think that synopsis would have fit better later in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
If we see that once we see he's actually obsessed with tonic.
Right. Yeah.
But at this point, you have no reason to think that.
Right. Sam wants Al to stay with him really close so that they can spot the killer. And we end up seeing Philip. We cut to like him sitting on the porch or something, taking pictures of his hotel room, and we have more suspenseful music playing.
Yeah, so that's when we, as the viewer, get a better look that, maybe he is stalking him.
Right.
But Sam doesn't know that.
Right.
And one thing that here's my guess that some of our viewers might say is the reason. See, I'm anticipating how people respond to these things that we say now,
based on comments that we usually get.
Yeah, so maybe based on that line of thought that I've seen, and I'm not sure who you could probably tell me who would say this, but maybe it's because Sam's picking up some residual memories of Tonic, and maybe Tonic has been watching this kid for a while. Maybe. And noticed he was already on Tonic's radar.
That sounds like an Alpa line of thinking, if I'm correct. Yeah, that sounds like something Alpa would say. And perhaps he will make that very comment. Okay, so the band is at a radio station at some kind of mall being interviewed. Do you know the radio station?
I don't know the radio station. Yep, it was the radio station. They were at a mall. They called it a tacky mall.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch the name of the station.
The host ends up asking about the best track on their latest album, the song being Fate's Wide Wheel.
Yeah, and the album is 5 All Night.
AKA the origin story of the podcast by the same name, and our sister podcast currently run by Sam. With the other guy, Dennis is no longer with them, which is news I got from you. The band banters. The lyrics perfectly describe Sam's life as a leaper.
The lyrics are talking about traveling through space and time. I didn't write down the specific lyrics.
I kind of
if you want a deeper analysis about the song Fate's Wide Wheel, go check out Fate's Wide Wheel podcast, because I'm sure they've covered it in great detail.
I'm sure they have. So yeah, he gets asked the question, what does that mean? And Sam gives a pretty good answer.
Yeah, it resonates with him, because we're talking about, wearing a mask. You can't really see who I am, and I want to go home. And it's all very, very specific, obviously written on purpose that way for Quantum Leap. But
I'm very curious how Tonic would have answered that question.
Probably in a very less meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to talk about Fellow Travelers for a second, remember there was a song in that episode as well where we had the same
the title was named after.
The song in that, the Carly Farmer song, Fellow Travelers, which was very similar about traveling and wanting to go home.
Mm-hmm. So Sam ends up getting flashed by a female fan, asked to sign something. Did he end up signing her boobs, or did
he signed a record for her?
And then, okay.
Yeah, that's what she wanted signed.
Oh, okay. And then we have more slow motion, more suspenseful music, because Philip is in the crowd.
He's in the crowd. Al says, actually, no. Yes. Sorry. My brain jumped ahead. So yeah, Al centers on Philip and follows him home. Mm-hmm. That's what happens.
Philip goes home to a hotel room, and he's singing... I
didn't think that was a hotel room.
Well, I think... Al mentions that he has Ziggy check the room, and that John Doe was staying there.
But I thought it was more of an
apartment
rental.
Building.
Yeah, because it looked pretty well decorated.
Yeah, you're right. Because he has the band memorabilia.
Unless he's just been in a hotel room for a long time stalking them. I don't know.
I mean, it could be. He's singing a song.
He's singing Fate's Wide Wheel.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I have that in my notes. And Al looks for clues to his identity. The apartment or hotel registry, depending, doesn't help, but Philip helpfully opens his wallet and flings it around so that Al can get a look at it.
Yeah, he gets a look at Philip's ID, and that's how he's able to figure out his name is Philip. I never wrote down his last name. And his birthday, where he's from. And I don't know, shouldn't Ziggy have been able to just use like facial recognition or something and figure out who this person is once we physically had a fix on him?
Yeah, I mean, you would figure. But yeah, I'm not really sure how that.
Like, I feel like that's happened plenty of times before where they just look at somebody and they're like, oh, that's so-and-so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would think so. But, you know, Ziggy's not always the greatest at his job, even though so far he's been doing somewhat okay. Better than usual, I would say. We cut to the sound check. Al gives Sam the down low on Philip. He's an orphan, more or less. The mother is dead. The father is unknown. A member of the band tells him that someone called to tell him his check bounced, attempting to buy a ranch, which is significant.
Yeah.
Sam wants to talk to Philip, but Al says the kid doesn't want to talk to him. He just wants to kill him. What is he basing that on?
Right.
Like, you don't really know this kid. How do you know what his motivations are exactly?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, the rehearsals begin, and then we have the lights falling, which is an assassination attempt. And they end up ruling out Philip real quick, saying he couldn't have done that.
Well, they ruled out Philip as far as setting up the lights, but they're not convinced yet that he's not the killer still.
Mm-hmm.
They think this was part of, this is when they start suspecting other people, but they're still like, well, maybe it's still Philip.
Right.
Because you think maybe the lights was just an accident, coincidence.
Right.
And, yeah, it was this quite dramatic scene. Al, is standing there and the light, cuts through him. And I feel this was a good cut, like, for them. Usually it's, like, really cheesy when you see him walking through things, but I didn't think that this one had that same level of cheesiness. I felt like it was a much better
effect.
Yeah, a much better visual effect there. And they're rehearsing the song Rock the Redhead, which we'll get a full performance of later.
That sounds like an actual song. Like I don't know, is that a real song?
I don't think it is, but watching this, it sounded very similar to something, and I didn't pinpoint what. And then I was pondering, is it just because I watched this so many times that I think it's like I felt the same way about Somewhere in the Night. I was like, I know this song,
right? I know because you heard it
because of Quantum Leap.
Oh, what's also interesting is this is pretty much how the new series episode Fellow Travelers began.
Exactly.
It began with the
light
stage
falling during sound check.
Mm-hmm. So they end up looking into this, like, the security guard, and they find out he has a criminal record, and he seems to be buddy-buddy with Flash, who we already know has conflict with Tonic.
Yeah, and this is the character Whittler. And Whittler is played by Jan Eddy. He was also in the episode Leaping Without a Net.
Okay. What was he in that episode?
Somebody in the circus. I recognized him, but I don't...
Oh, I think I know who... I think I can picture who you're talking about. I don't know the guy's name, but yeah.
So yeah, he did 2 years for armed robbery. He was also arrested for attempted manslaughter, but was not convicted of that charge. But because, he does have a criminal past, they suddenly suspect him too, because he would have had access to set up this light. And then I think it's Al gives us the suggestion, well, maybe Whittler's working with Flash because Flash would become the lead singer if Tonic died.
Right.
So they're suspecting literally everybody at this point. For no reasons.
Pretty much. I mean, I guess that makes a little bit more sense at this point than
Philip, right.
But, okay, so Sam goes to talk to Dwayne about his checks bouncing.
Yes, he does. I wrote Philip in my notes.
Yeah, I did that, alternated between Philip and Dwayne, too, because they're just, I don't know why, but Dwayne tells him that he doesn't keep money in his checking account. He's supposed to tell Dwayne, and Dwayne transfers the money over. Which
I thought was a very reasonable answer.
Right.
Like, that makes sense that your manager is managing your money, and...
I mean, that's what he's supposed to do.
And, right, you would need to tell him about a very large purchase you're trying to make.
And he wants to know what he wants the ranch for. Sam, of course, doesn't know. He's just like, oh, I just want a ranch.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that Sam even followed up on the bounce check thing, because... Cool. Like, I'm here to solve a murder. Right. So why do I care about a bounce check?
It's fortunate that he does, because, it kind of casts aspersions on Dwayne's character. So, of course, Sam doesn't know. He just wants it and asks, hey, there's no problem with the money, right? And Dwayne's, of course, oh, yeah, there's no problem. It's just tied up in, the stock market and
long-term stuff.
Yeah, so, you can make your money work for you.
Which also is true, and sounds reasonable.
It makes sense. Sam is set to go out on stage at the next concert. And he doesn't think he can do it.
Yeah, he's freaking out. He tells Al, I'm not a rocker. I don't know how to do this. And Al's answer is just go out on stage and make an idiot of yourself and you'll be fine.
Yeah, start doing the Hendrix, with the guitar and the wang wang.
Yeah, and we got a really funny, like, who's on first type of bit here. Al mentions Pete Townshend, and Sam's like, who? And he's like, yes, who?
Oh, yeah. That was a good one. I missed that one. Sam goes... Okay, so Sam ends up going out there.
Yeah.
Afterwards... And everything seems to go fine. Afterwards, Flash's girlfriend hits on Sam.
Yes, and there we had a little flirty scene between them already the first time we saw her, which was in that initial limo ride. So her name is Sandy. Now she's not being very subtle at this point.
Right? No, all over him. Al thinks this is a bad idea, and I tend to agree.
Yeah, Sam turns her down, but I mean, Flash notices this interaction.
Yeah, he eventually manages to get away from her. They party till morning. Sam is annoyed, wondering, when are these people going to go home?
5 a.m.
He's not used to the rock star lifestyle. Al says Ziggy gives 50% odds that Dwayne is embezzling money from them, which is the real reason his check bounced. And actually, I think his explanation is the real reason why it bounced. But at the same time, I have no doubt that, well, I mean, obviously he was, but...
Right.
Usually the situation, the manager is embezzling, at least in media. Sam wants a prime suspect, but it's a three-way tie between three different people.
Yeah, and they name Philip, Whitler, and Dwayne. And, of course, Whitler's still tied in with Flash being involved.
Right. Sam asks about Philip, and Al ends up centering in on him, and he's just right there.
Yeah, didn't go anywhere, and they think Ziggy's, not working, but... No, it's because Philip is at the party. It seems very convenient that you'd wanted to center on him right now.
And, we get that usual dramatic slow-mo music thing. And Al says that there's a chance that he's going to get stabbed right now.
50% chance.
Which is what are they basing that on? Just because Philip is in the crowd?
Yeah, it might happen right now. You might have changed something.
Right. Philip said, so he grabs Philip, security goes through his things and finds a knife. Philip says he would never hurt him because he is his father.
Yeah, so he had a knife on him, which is suspicious, of course, because we're looking for someone who stabs.
Right.
He'd also stolen a piece of Sam's costume. So this is where we get evidence that, he is a little obsessed with Tonic. But yeah, he says, you're my father. And Sam, that's enough for Sam to want to talk to the kid.
Right.
And Philip tells us that his... Mom had slept with him during or after a concert in, I forget where, Omaha, maybe?
Yes, Omaha's in my notes.
And of course Sam doesn't know, right? He has no information on this. Al's able to tell us, yeah, you did play Omaha 16 years ago.
Right. And I'm guessing this kid is 16?
Yeah, or 15.
And he's living completely on his own in his own
apartment. Because his mom died.
Right, yeah.
His mom died, and they had mentioned, that he was... he'd run away from a couple foster homes, so he's in the system and not participating.
Also, Philip uses as evidence the fact that he also has a webbed hand, and Sam has to look at his hand.
Yeah, this is where we get our mirror image of Tonic, and the actor playing the mirror image has these webbed fingers, and Philip has the same thing. But Ziggy says that only gives a 50% chance that Tonic is the boy's father. We get a lot of 50s here.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Meaning,
that's for sure.
Ziggy doesn't know anything.
Yep.
But better than usual, Ziggy's admitting that they don't know anything.
Right. Okay, so to catch the killer, Sam thinks that they're going to have to go through with the concert.
Yeah, because there's still a 99% chance that he's going to get killed.
Before the concert, it's agreed that they will do Flash's songs. Al shows up to suggest that he bail on the concert, but Sam says he can't. And I think this is similar to the moment in that the Carly Farmer episode.
There's so many. Yeah. Like, you could watch these episodes back to back, and it's a remake. Now, he also, right before a concert, confronts Dwayne about the money. Yeah,
Dwayne ends up coming in, and Sam uses this opportunity to talk about the embezzling. He says that basically Dwayne is gambling away more money than he makes, so where's that money coming from? And basically Dwayne admits to it,
and says, give me a chance. I'll replace all the money.
And of course, Sam ends up agreeing to this.
Yeah, Sam's like, okay, sure.
And this should theoretically take away his motive to kill Tonic. But he doesn't want to ride with... He says he doesn't want to ride with Flash that night. He wants all the limos brought somewhere else.
Yeah, he wants to go out a different exit because he knows going out that exit is where he's supposed to get stabbed.
Right.
So he's trying to do everything he can to change the course of events for this evening.
Flash's girlfriend comes in and tries to hit on Tonic again. Flash ends up coming in and throws his girlfriend out and threatens to kill him and then leaves. Al says, I think we definitely know who the killer is. It's definitely this person. Or this person, or this person.
Yeah.
And they're still naming Philip for some reason, even though nothing about him is even remotely sinister. His intentions seem to be to, hey, admit that you're my father.
Right.
So I don't know.
But they don't believe him still, because there's only a 50% chance that that's true.
But Flash here is threatening to kill him actively, and Dwayne is embezzling money, which is a significant motive there, even though Sam theoretically should have taken away that motive.
Right.
By saying, okay, it's fine, just get this back to us, basically.
Yeah, he didn't even act mad about it.
Right. We have the concert. Sam ends up singing Fate's Wide Wheel.
Yep.
After the song, Flash wants to know if they're doing his song. Al says his song is not even published, so Sam just goes ahead and says no.
Yeah, which I thought that was weird.
Why? Why not?
Right. Did you practice the song?
If you know the lyrics and you want to, take away someone's motive to kill you.
Right. Play a song.
Maybe play the damn song.
Yeah. And if you weren't prepared to play the song, why'd you tell him yes earlier? 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. So going off stage, they're exiting the building.
And they go out the original exit, even though we had requested they don't.
And Sam's like, wait, we're not supposed to be going this way. We see Philip again. We hear the suspenseful music.
And Philip goes to pull something out of his pocket. Al's standing right there. We're led to think it's the knife.
Right. But then he calls out, and he sees someone else coming for him. The person who's trying to stab him fails, and the murderer turns out to be Dwayne.
Yes, Dwayne, and he's revealed very Scooby-Doo style.
Right.
So he's wearing that other band member whose name we didn't catch, his wig, which we learned earlier was missing. They thought a fan took it.
Okay.
And he had this big fluffy blue coat on. For a second, watching this, I remember thinking that it was the girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
I remember thinking it was her at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we definitely learn right away it's not Philip, because Philip's warning Sam that somebody has a knife. And they pull the wig off and they're like, it's Dwayne!
Right. And he's like, and then that's when they all learn that they gambled away all his money.
Yeah, but Dwayne specifically says,
you couldn't wait.
He's going to kill him because you know about the money and you couldn't wait for me to return it. He just told you he would wait.
Right, exactly. So, at that point, I'd be like, well, maybe I should murder this guy now.
Yeah, unless possibly...
At least not
Tonic
this directly.
Already suspected it, and he already, told him he was going to reveal him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Okay, so back at the hotel room, Nick says they can always make more money, but there's only one Tonic. At first I thought this was Flash, but then I realized it wasn't Flash at all. It was Nick. So the whole thing with Flash, the tension is suddenly gone. They've been, kind of fighting throughout this episode.
Yeah. And I don't think he even brought up again the fact that they didn't play his songs.
Right. And not only that, but, there was that whole, the girlfriend hitting on Sam thing.
Yeah, and now she's there and everything's cool.
Right. Everything is just dropped. I get it that the whole Dwayne thing just happened, but still.
Maybe that's just kind of their typical everyday relationship between these rock stars.
I guess. I'm not a rock star, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, so we learn at this point, we find out what was Philip reaching for, and we learn that it was a photograph. Mm-hmm. And you thought during the crowd was the best time to show this to him?
Right.
Okay. It was a photograph of his mom and Tonic, back in the 50s, before it was a rock band. He was playing this concert. And Flash tells us that's the night that Tonic got his nickname. Immediately after the concert, he was rushed to the hospital, so he couldn't have slept with this woman after the show. So it's this big letdown, oh, he's not your father. And, but then Flash looks at the picture and recognizes the girl. He says, oh, wait, I remember her. She was backstage with you before the concert. And instantly, we flip that around as soon as we got disappointment that now, oh, wait, maybe you are the father. Would any of them really recognize this girl?
Given the number of women that
right, this was 16 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
They've had a lot of concerts back then. We've seen like 20 girls in the last 2 days throw themselves at them. I got a feeling there's been a lot of encounters, and I don't know if they would recognize this girl from a photo.
Well, given the new info, Al ends up saying that there's 98% chance that he is the father. Murray says, you are the father.
Right. So now, just because we learned that Flash recognizes this girl, suddenly we went from a 50% chance to like, what was it, 98 or 99?
98%, yeah.
Which is silly that just changed so quickly for Ziggy. Okay.
Sam smiles and says, perhaps I am the father. They hug. Philip starts to leave, and Sam asks, hey, where are you going? And he says, hey, Philip says, like, yeah, I just wanted to meet you.
Yeah,
like, I wanted nothing from you. This is it.
He already told him that earlier in the episode, too. But Sam asks Philip to stick around and be a roadie. And Tonic, makes mention, not Tonic, Flash makes mention that, the kid is really good with the guitar. How does he know that? Did we see that at some point?
No, but... I don't know, does Flash say that, or does someone else
Flash
say that?
said, like, oh, I saw you're really good at handling your dad's guitar, or whatever.
Maybe he did at some point hanging out in this hotel room, but then again, they just got here.
Yeah, I felt like I missed something there. Maybe it was a deleted scene. But yeah, they're encouraging the kid, and he decides to stick around, and Al tells us that he ends up becoming one of the hottest studio musicians in London.
Nice.
I'm not exactly sure what that means. Studio musicians.
Not really sure, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, maybe he doesn't go on tour, he just records albums or something. I'm not really sure. I get, if you're listening to this and you happen to know the answer to that question, feel free to drop a comment and let us know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is also an instance where Sam is making a decision for his host.
Right.
How do we know that his host would want anything to do with Philip?
Anything to do with this kid. Right.
Right. I mean, apparently it works out, but still. That's an instance where Sam is making a decision for his host.
Yeah, and he's going to come back and be like, what do you mean you're my son?
Right.
Then we got to do all this all over again.
Yep. So Philip ends up taking the job, becomes the hottest studio musician in London, and Sam ends up leaping
into A Hunting We Will Go. And then during the closing credits, we get an encore performance of Rock the Redhead.
We should have gotten Fate's Wide Wheel.
I know, right? They played Rock the Redhead more than Fate's Wide Wheel during the episode. But I believe both songs made it onto the Quantum Leap soundtrack.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess they're original songs made for this episode then, huh?
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Quantum Leap does that a lot. All right, so do we have anything...
Yeah, one thing, so that whole scene with Flash recognizing the photograph and being like, oh yeah, I remember when you slept with her. I feel like it had to have been copying this episode, and I'm sure you have no idea what I'm talking about. Do you remember a couple years ago there was a revival of 90210?
Yeah, I never watched it.
Yeah, I didn't think you would have. So they did a revival of 90210 in a meta sense. So it was really weird. It was canceled after one season, but the actors were playing scripted versions of themselves. So it wasn't a reality show. It was scripted. But they were playing themselves retro visiting the series.
Okay.
So we were following a modern day version, scripted version of these actors.
Was it the same actors as the original series?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was them, living in the limelight of 30 years since their show. And they had some reunion. But it was all from the point of view of these are the real actors, but it wasn't reality. It was scripted. Some of them had different spouses in the show than they do in real life, and it was really weird.
It sounds weird. It sounds like a weird concept.
But one of the things that happened during that season is this kid is stalking one of the characters, and I want to say it was Jason Priestley, and he reveals himself to say, "You're my dad. You slept with my mom. Here's a picture of you and my mom together at some party. When you were on the show."
Right.
And
it's interesting, but because Jason Priestley was on Quantum Leap for season.
Yeah, and one of the other actors And he was like, no, I don't recognize her. It's not me, kid, you know? And then one of the other actors is like, oh, wait, I recognize that girl.
Wow.
But it wasn't you she was hanging out with. It was, oh my gosh, what's his name? The one who died. Oh, good Lord.
It wasn't Priestley.
He played Dylan.
Yeah.
And he passed away. He wasn't on the show. He died before they did this.
I'm picturing the guy, but I can't think of the actor's name.
What the heck? I see. I don't have any of this in my notes. It just came to me to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was like, oh, he's the one that she was with.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to realize it was his kid.
Gotcha.
Or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I might have this a little bit wrong. It was a few years ago, and again, it was really weird.
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but yeah, it sounds like very similar.
The point is, that scene always reminded me very much of this episode and what happens here. To the point where I feel like they had some inspiration from it. Like, it was very, very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe a homage of some type?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Speaking of which, again, we'll bring up Fellow Travelers.
Yeah.
And just talk about some of those points.
Okay.
How it was such an obvious mirror. And we mentioned these, the light falling during sound check.
Right.
There's an estranged family member involved. In this case, it's the son that he never knew about.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In Fellow Travelers, it's Carly's sister.
Right.
Which she knows about her, but they've been estranged for like a dozen years or so, right?
Yep.
And it's a whodunit mystery.
Yes.
And we suspect everybody throughout the course of the episode, including the manager.
Right.
The relative.
And we all suspected it was going to be the manager. I forgot who even ended up being the actual killer in that episode.
I remember.
Okay.
I'll tell you. So yeah, it was the same lineup, but we got a different punchline.
Okay.
And we suspected the manager because they're following the story so closely,
yep.
right? So we suspect the manager, the relative, and the person who wants credits for their songs.
That's right. Okay.
So in this case, that would have been Flash. Right, who kept saying, play my songs, play my songs. It's a little bit different scenario. In Fellow Travelers, it was the backup singer. Again, actually, he was the backup singer, so that's the same. But there was something about song credits in there, too.
Okay.
I don't remember the details. But yeah, it ended up being the backup singer. So in that case, it was Flash.
What's interesting is that in this episode, Sam was the rock star that was being targeted.
Right.
Whereas in the Fellow Travelers, he was the bodyguard.
He was,
Ben, specifically.
Ben was he would have been the place of Whitler, like security.
Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's an interesting role reversal there.
Yeah, and I think at one point he even did suspect that he was the person. Didn't they suspect that?
I'm sure he was.
Yeah. So it was just very, very mirrored. And to the point where 100% it feels intentional. 100% it feels like...
Did you ask Ziggy? Did Ziggy give you that number?
No, that's my number.
Okay.
Even again, so, the apropos song lyrics
of
the song that were... And looking at it, I feel like you had to have made this episode entirely based on paying homage to Glitter Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember in an interview...
Yeah.
Somebody, I don't remember who said this interview, and it was on one of the other podcasts. Somebody that was interviewed about this episode, about Fellow Travelers, and I'd have to go back and look at who said this, but it was a writer or a producer or somebody said, no, I didn't even watch that episode.
That's a little too weird.
Yeah.
To come up with all the same similarities without watching the episode?
Somebody did.
Right.
And whoever this was didn't even realize that they were recreating this episode.
Well, maybe the producer didn't watch the episode, but the writers certainly did.
I forget who said it. I feel like it was a female, which makes me think it was one of the writers.
But
I don't remember who it was.
Right.
So if anybody remembers what I'm talking about, let us know, and I'll go back and look at it again.
I kind of wish I had watched Fellow Travelers in preparation for this, but...
Right.
Yeah, so that I would have seen the similarities even more.
It feels so... It feels like a direct remake. It really does. It feels like a direct remake of this episode, and I hate to say it, I feel like Fellow Travelers did it better.
Yeah, I actually tend to agree with that.
And I remember watching it, and I was like, ugh, this is just, they're copycatting. Like, I would like that you pay homage to the original series, but it felt too similar. But now I feel like they redid it and they did it better.
Mm.
Because I don't feel like we had all of these, like, think people are guilty for no reason. You know, I feel like
actually
the
had
mystery,
genuine,
I feel like the mystery was better told
Mm-hmm.
and better, you know, unfolded.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the thing where Ben kept changing things and, now the timeline's moved, right? Now she's going to die here. Now she's going to die there.
Right.
Where in this episode, we didn't move the timeline at all, but it was like, oh, now there's 50% chance you die today.
Right.
Why?
Right.
It took the ideas from this, and I feel like it explained them better, and it made it make more sense.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's not a knock on this episode in general. I think it was a good episode.
Yep.
Of course, you know, we found some things to criticize, but
I
we
mean,
always
we
do.
always do.
We always do.
I mean, like we've said many times before, we criticize out of love.
Yeah.
And it's fun for us, like to you know
super
point
nitpick.
out, to point out
And
the silliness of it.
sometimes our criticisms are very nitpicky. I mean,
Yeah.
I just feel like we have to find something to complain about.
Mhm. I mean, otherwise, you know, what do we have to talk about, really?
Right. Otherwise, we're just giving you a synopsis, and that's
Boring?
no fun.
Yeah. All right. So, you have any other points for this episode?
Nope. That's my that's what I got for this episode, and I feel like I appreciated this more this time
Yeah.
than in past episodes, and maybe that's because of the whole Carly Farmer thing being in my
I think
head now.
I think it stays relatively the same for me.
Yeah.
I liked it as a kid. I like it now. It's it's not terrible. I mean, it's not the greatest episode ever, but it's goodish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would like to hear from you. Your thoughts on the podcast, your thoughts on this episode. Stacie can be reached at...
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk, although I don't feel like Twitter X is going to be around much longer. They've released that they plan to be a paid-only site.
Yes.
And if that's the case, I will not be participating in that. So make sure you follow both of us on Instagram.
Okay.
Because that'll probably be replacing
Mm-hmm.
the Twitter thing altogether pretty soon.
All right. If you like this video and want to support the channel, you can follow me on Twitter, X, at Core Productions, for as long as that stays an option. You can join one of my Corn Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Corn Productions store on Zazzle, which has a bunch of new cool products, courtesy of my co-host. And you can buy me a copy, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Corn Productions, signing off.